And welcome back to Michigan Matters. We're now talking with Susie Siegel, who's president and CEO of Walsh College, who's here to talk about education and many other things. And it's so great to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Carol. I'm so happy to be here.
So Walsh College started, it has a connection to Thomas Edison, right?
Yes, it does.
It goes way back. So what's the quick Jenna storyline?
Sure. So 1922, our founder, Mervyn Walsh, started Walsh Institute, and he was the accountant for Thomas Edison. So he worked with the Thomas Edison Light Company and also specifically with the Motion Picture Company, because Thomas Edison also started that, and founded Walsh Institute, which then became Walsh College as it is today.
And today, okay, it was in Detroit originally, right?
Yeah, started at the 6th floor of the Detroit Opera House. And the very first class had 6 women in there at a time when it wasn't very popular to educate women.
Progressive.
Yes.
Yes, good thing to be. And so today, Walsh College is in Troy. And when was that campus opened? How many students? How many degrees? What's the footprint?
Sure. So in the 1970s, the state of Michigan changed the regulation to sit for the CPA exam. You needed a college degree. So Mervyn Walsh, the visionary he was, didn't want to compete with community colleges. He wanted to partner with them. So Walsh Institute, that was teaching the PACE accounting method, became Walsh College, and it does upper division, so the junior second year and senior year, as well as graduate programs, and now doctoral.
And so how many students are at Walsh today?
Yeah, so our census showed us 1,283 students. About 1,000 of those are at our Troy campus, and about 260 of those are learning with us through our Walsh College UAE campus in the United Arab Emirates, as well as our partnership in India with Great Learning.
So you have a lot of global component to all of this, too.
We do, yes.
And the reason for that?
Well, we wanted to make sure that our mission is global, right? And we've always had students that were international, and now what we're seeing is a greater interest in our technology programs and those degrees, specifically artificial intelligence and machine learning. And we want to make sure everybody knows learning is accessible anywhere in the world.
So you've doubled down, you're all in on AI with the undergrad, and you have a PhD program too, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
So how do you see that fitting into the rubric of what's taking place here? How are you preparing young folks and maybe middle-aged folks who are in these programs for these new jobs?
Okay, so I'm glad you mentioned that. So we offer AI at the undergrad level, bachelor's, at the master's level, and at the PhD level. And we've seen the news. We've seen the layoffs happening in big corporations. And what we're hearing are talent is being, kind of displaced by AI. So we want to help educate and empower the professionals to use the AI tools effectively so that they can succeed in their career. So what we're seeing is a greater interest in learning how to use the tools to advance in the business world.
You also provide real-world experience for students, too. How are you working with companies in the community here?
Yes, so we have incredible corporate partners. I mean, obviously, Imagine Entertainment is one of them. They're located above our second floor of our campus, and we've had a great educational partnership with them. The Troy Chamber of Commerce is also located on our campus, and so we have a preferred educational partnership with them where there's incentive pricing if you're a chamber member. We also have a range of accounting firms and tax firms, financial companies that work with us that hire our students, and we have a very robust career department. So we really do have a strong word of mouth and corporate partner engagement model.
Paul Glantz, who started Imagine Entertainment, as mentioned, he moved his offices to your campus. He recently is in the process of selling his company to a Belgium company. Are they going to, and I haven't had a chance to talk with him, are they keeping their facility there and everything?
Yes, I was very happy to hear. They love the location. They love the facility and the campus. They're going to keep the Imagine brand, which is wonderful because that really has been his heart and soul and legacy. And Paul is an alum. He earned a Master of Science in Tax from Walsh, and he's one of our greatest supporters and champions of our students. In fact, just last night at the MICPA dinner, he was honored at the Chair Service Award, and he helped us sponsor a table for our students so that they could attend and connect with the firm. So we're very grateful to Paul.
So is he teaching classes, or has he been teaching classes?
He's so busy, right, with running Imagine.
Running Imagine, all the changes there.
Yeah, I know. We're very much hoping that he'll join us as far as teaching some courses in the Center for Innovation Entrepreneurship, serving as an entrepreneur in residence, so to speak, because he has so much wisdom that he can impart. And he always talks to our students, helps them and mentors them.
How important, there's been a lot of conversation about the need to have a college degree. Some people think maybe you don't necessarily need that anymore, the costs associated with, et cetera. How do you see it, the value of a college degree?
Yeah, well, let's look at the data. So there was just a study released, I believe it was U.S. News and World Report, where they did this study and they looked at earning potential for degrees. Now, it is nice because they focused on the degrees that have the highest ROI. In business and technology, what Walsh College offers have a high ROI. So what you are seeing are higher starting salaries and greater promotability from there. So as much as that question has been circulating, I think you have to ask yourself what type of college degree and how affordable is it? And at Walsh, because we don't have a large infrastructure, we don't have a sports team, we don't have dorms, we're able to offer a very lean professional education model that has high ROI. So if the degree can be done with a affordable center, like an affordable model, and if you can finish, you have to finish what you start, and if you can finish in an area that has high market value like business and technology, it's a very strong investment.
And we're going to put a bow tie on this for the moment, take a quick break. We'll be back with more Michigan Matters in our conversation after this. Welcome back to Michigan Matters. We're talking with Susie Siegel, President and CEO of Walsh College, about the Troy-based campus and the amazing history that you folks have. I was just leafing through this book here about the company, the school, and it's amazing the rich heritage that there is here. You're, I think, the 9th president?
Yes, I am.
Which is amazing. In that many years, you're only the 9th president. You're also an attorney. Did you aspire to be a university president?
Well, you think, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
But I always loved education. I believe there are conversations that can happen in a college and university environment that can't happen anywhere else. And education is the great equalizer. It provides the access and opportunity. So when the opportunity presented itself, I was so happy to take it.
And when were you appointed?
2022, although I came to Walsh in September of 2020, right during COVID.
I was going to say you were there during the pandemic.
Yes.
Speaking of that, well, that's a good conduit to the next question here. It has to do with the fact that you have a lot of hybrid classes and online classes. How much of that was tied to the pandemic?
Yeah, good question. So even before the pandemic, Walsh was about 50% online because they met professional learners where they were at. They offered them online courses as well as on-ground components, so students might come one night a week. Now, after the pandemic, and this is a huge credit to the college and the faculty, they were able to pivot and go online very seamlessly and very quickly because the infrastructure was built. So now, post-COVID, we're seeing about 75 to 80% of the students prefer an online modality. That can be synchronous, right, like Zoom synchronous, or it can be async. But we also offer the option to come in class and sit in a campus room, and we have hybrid options as well. So you can be there with the faculty member, you can be on Zoom, it can flex by your schedule.
Some classes, it would seem to me like a lab. You would want to be in a lab actually doing work type stuff here. Are most of your classes, it's about 50% are
Well, it's a good question. So yes, for the labs, especially in technology, you'll see more students come to campus and you'll see more hands-on. But because our population is global and across the country, our labs are able to be delivered online. So like our Bloomberg terminals that run the Bloomberg and S&P software in our finance lab, you can access that anywhere in the world.
Okay. So students, you're coming from your community colleges, you get a pool, that's where your students are coming
from?
For
our undergrad, yes. They
Okay.
come from a community college because we do the upper 2 years and we take them, once they finish the associate's degree, they can begin an early path with us. But that's why we're such a great partner for community colleges. We work with them.
You are a private college, and the money issue is probably not the same as some of the public institutions here. How are you financed, and how are things right now as far as that?
Sure. So student tuition dollars are the primary financial driver. We also offer Title IV financial aid, so we do offer financial aid for students. It's a little different than at the publics, and we have incredible scholarships through the generosity of our donors and our external partners and our corporate sponsors. So we try to have that model be as affordable for students as we can, and we run a very sound and efficient business model because that's good stewardship of our tuition resources and our donor dollars.
Your thoughts about how higher education is funded at Michigan? I've had other university presidents on, and it seems like every year there's a battle, how much we're going to get out of the budget this time, and it's tough. Your thoughts about how higher ed is the model here?
Yeah, so for state colleges and state schools, and I've got some wonderful colleagues and partners there, it is a different model, and they have gone through a lot of challenges and changes adjusting to those. So when you build your infrastructure and your personnel and your operations around external funding, and that shifts, you're vulnerable. So in a private higher education sector, we're not as vulnerable to state dollars because we don't get the same level of aid, but we do have to make sure that we're providing value, and that's why Walsh is so great, is we're providing market-driven degrees, and students are getting jobs and they're advancing in their careers. Over 97% of the students that we have are working. Now, a lot of them come to us with jobs, so that is a nice benefit, but the reason is we have to deliver market-aligned programs because of that tuition model that we have.
What about students who should pursue advanced degrees? We talked about undergrad degrees, but the conversation now, okay, getting a master's or getting a PhD. How important is that today?
Well, earning potential does go up. People do talk about that. It depends on the field you're going to go into, and it depends on the PhD. I think a PhD in history is fabulous, but that might be limited in the job market of what you can do. A PhD in AI and artificial intelligence, machine learning, a doctorate in business administration. Forbes ranked our DBA #1 in 2024. Oh. Those are much more market driven. So you're going to see a higher ROI, coaching, consulting. You can be an adjunct professor. You can be teaching. You can be writing. You can be publishing. A lot of our DBA students are at top Fortune 500 companies, and they're looking at their next iteration of life. So the earning potential is there, and you want to make sure you're making a smart investment, like a Walsh College doctorate.
How do you decide when to add a new degree or new classes, particularly when it comes to technology, which is like lightning speed? It's changing. What you're learning today is moot in 6 months. There's a whole new this and that going on. How do you keep up with that?
Sure. So that's a great partnership between our academic department and our academic dean, Dr. Dave Skippers, and also our enrollment team to say, okay, what are we seeing in the marketplace? What degree programs are viable? And what fits our mission, right? Not everything is going to fit our mission and be, marketable, but with AI ML, that was really a very obvious choice. We saw that happening in the market, and I give all credit to our Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Skippers, because he got ahead of that trend and developed it at the undergrad, the master's level, and the PhD level.
What do you say? Some people think the AI bubble is going to burst sometime soon. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, you look at the indicators, the amount of money being invested in Michigan, billions of dollars, especially in infrastructure and what's happening in companies. So I'm not certain. I think it's going to be reshaping the way the workforce is done. I think just like the computer and the phone, we're not going to get rid of it. It's just how do we use these tools to be effective?
Much more to say. We're out of time. I want to thank you so much for being here. Great conversation. Have you back. We'll talk more about it.
Sounds wonderful.
All right, appreciate that. And thanks to you at home for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you next Sunday for a little bit more Michigan Matters.